Divorce is more than a legal process. It can affect a woman's finances, her family, her confidence, and the future that she's trying to rebuild. So, what does it look like when a law firm is intentionally built to understand women, advocate for them, and help them move through one of the hardest transitions of their lives? Welcome back. Welcome to Divorcing Strong, the podcast that pulls no punches when it comes to divorce. I'm Becky Sampson, better known as Bulldog Becky Brockovich, and I'm here to give you the straight talk, the strategies, and the subpoena secrets you won't hear anywhere else. With expert guests and proven advice, you'll learn your rights, your options, and gain your power that encourages a fair and equitable outcome. Divorce doesn't have to break you. It can build you. Let's get to it. Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Becky Sampson. I am your host of the Divorcing Strong podcast. As you can tell, I'm not in the studio today. I've been on a business trip with my business partner this last week. We just got back from Charleston, South Carolina. It was so beautiful, so hot. And so I'm always excited. This is one thing I always love about being in business for myself and also doing this. The technology now, you can do it from anywhere. So I am very grateful for that opportunity, the opportunity to do a podcast today, because I love being able to talk to attorneys who have been in this industry for a while, have seen the patterns, who are making an effort to advocate not only for women, but for men too. We typically speak to women on this podcast, but I'm excited to share with the audience or with you this guest today, because she also, as an attorney, which is kind of unusual, started her own podcast in helping women win at their divorce. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. So my guest today is Heather Quick. She's the founder and CEO of Florida Women's Law Group, a family law-based firm based in Jacksonville that serves women throughout the Northeast Florida. Heather earned her law degree in Stetson University College of Law and began her legal career as a prosecutor in Florida's 13th Judicial Circuit. She later worked in family law and medical malpractice before opening her own firm in 2006. Today, Heather leads the vision and long-term direction of Florida's Women's Law Group, combined legal experience, leadership, and deep commitment to supporting women through divorce and other major family changes. She's also an author and podcast host who contributes to educate and empower women as they navigate the legal system and rebuild their lives. Is that not a perfect guest for Divorcing Strong? Thank you so much, Heather, for being willing to take time out of your busy schedule to be on the podcast today. Really appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So I like to kind of start off the podcast with the question. I know we talked a little bit about in the intro, your backstory, but what kind of got you to this point? Like, what's the backstory of not only, I always love to ask the attorneys this, is like, what got you into law? Did you, like, typically that's not something that, at a young age that you want to do. Sometimes it is, but what got you into law? And then what kind of transitioned you into this point where you are now working with women specifically and advocating for them?
All righty. Well, I will do that. I will condense it as best I can, but I'm not sure at what age I really decided I wanted to become a lawyer, but I did know at a rather young age, my grandfather was a judge here in Jacksonville, Florida, for his whole career. My uncle was a very successful private practice attorney, and I just saw myself going into there. I'm sure my grandmother told me, right, from a very young age, that that's what you need to do. So I really had that idea in my head. Now, I thought I would go into the FBI because I really always thought that would be super cool. Really? These were just thoughts in my head. It's because my grandfather did this after law school, but I didn't, by the time it came, time to be graduating, that was not really where I wanted to go. But I've been fascinated by the law. I was, rather immature when I went to college at 17. So it took me a little while. I had a few detours, but then got back to where I was like, I'm going to go to law school, be a lawyer. And I loved every minute of law school. I will tell you, most people don't. Like, I loved it. I love learning. I mean, things like real property. I loved it. Trust and estates. All the criminal was my favorite. I'm
Really?
law and order junkie. I love criminal law so much. That was really something I enjoyed very much. And I did trial advocacy, trial practice within law school. I did an internship at the state attorney's office where I eventually started to work, but I got to pick 5 juries while I was still a law student. I loved
That
it.
is
I
so
really
cool.
did. And so that was my first job, and very much, advised through me by my uncle, who that's what he did first. And so that's what he said I should do, because that's where I can really learn to become a lawyer. And it was great. Very thankful I loved it. It was just fast paced, and you're learning, but you're in a courtroom and learning evidence and how to question people, cross-examine, things that are good skills to know, even though I don't practice in front of a jury now. The
Right.
skills that I learned served me very, very well
Well,
throughout my
what it did,
career.
I can see that would probably prepare you, though, to knowing when you're working with your clients what the judges are looking for, how the system works, how to prepare a case if it does end up going to litigation. And also, like, you may not want to go to litigation because this is what may or may not be the result. So that
Yes.
would be very valuable.
And it's really, when you are in a courtroom, when you're litigating, what I would tell my clients, I said, don't talk to me, don't tap me, because I'm doing 3 things at once. I am listening, which is so very important to what the witness is saying,
Yep.
or even the judge, because you need to understand, even though I may have, my questions, I need to listen for the content, listen to see if I need to object, as well as be thinking, what would my follow-up be, which I'm writing. So all of that is going on. So that is why, for a client, bring a new legal pad, sticky notes, wait until your lawyer is ready, because any good litigator, that is what they're doing, because that's how you're effective. And I learned that, even though I didn't know I was learning that is what I was learning as a young prosecutor.
Well, and also, I mean, just because of my experience as well, is when you're in the middle of litigation, everybody's very high. There's a lot of emotion, right? And there's a lot of reaction. So I love that would be something that you say is like, look, okay, let's restrain ourselves, put a notepad, put a pin in it, know that there's a very strategic game happening in the court, at least the way I see it. And you got to understand how to play that to the best ability for your client, which I love. Absolutely. That you want to be present,
Yes. And that's where also, because oftentimes, having litigated for so many years and truly understanding evidence and court procedure and things like that, it allows me to explain to clients what can and can't happen. And I have all these documents. That's great. We have to authenticate them. Where are the witnesses? Where are the people? Well, no, I just show these letters. No, that's not the way that works. And in helping them, because they don't, our clients don't know. People who have not been involved in this don't know, and nor should they know. It's our job as lawyers to help advise them, so that practical experience helps them understand to the best they can what that would be like. And it also helps us evaluate a case when it's like, I don't think this would be good to go to trial. I think we need to try to negotiate and come to a settlement, because I really don't think the issues, there's not really adequate proof. We're not going to be able to really show the court in the way that you think that we can what it is you want to get across. So it may be best to come to a settlement.
Yeah. And so how much, when someone comes, first of all, how long have you been doing, actually, since 2006? Is that what the family law part of what you've done?
I learned and started doing family law for the first time in about 2003. And then did that for a couple of years. And then I went to medical malpractice defense, which was great because those were very large trials with juries. So the preparation that is required for that really helped me for because the preparation is the same. It's just whether it's going to be, 20 pages of questions versus maybe 5, but it's the same type of preparation. So then I had done that after learning family law, and then I ended up going back to family law.
So what makes you so passionate about helping you, specifically women, right? Or do you help men?
No, we represent women only.
Okay.
And that evolved really as once I opened my practice, and I did what most lawyers do. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do at first. I thought maybe criminal, but I'm a prosecutor at heart, not a criminal defense attorney. So when you're in private practice, it's defense, and it's just not for me.
Right.
And I really noticed that as within the family law, I had a lot to offer to help our clients, because I believe in the family law system. Without representation, you are at a disadvantage, and I can do more. There are things that we can get you situated in a much better way than you could on your own or with a lesser attorney. I really, in that, then I saw the value that I could add. And also, I have a lot of personal experience with divorce. I like to say I had a front row seat. My mother was married and divorced 3 times, and my father was married and divorced 3 times, all the different people. So I saw all of it, and it gives me one, obviously empathy talking to individuals, but like, I understand that I don't have to have gone through my own divorce, but I went through theirs several times over. And there are different personalities that they were both married to. I saw that. I saw how things played out. And then that's really what led me to then represent women only, because I started to recognize the patterns that women were going through in a divorce, and they didn't value what they brought to the marriage. And they also got very afraid and wanted to quit and just take whatever he was offering. And I saw this again and again. I had seen this in my mother with when at least one divorce that she went through. She did that. She stood up for herself the second time, or that was the third time. But anyway, I noticed that, and something clicked where I was like, I can really just help them. And frankly, I want to help women. I do not want to help a man pay her less, take children from their mother. Like, that is not who I am. And I know there's so much I can do for women, because that is just where my heart is. So I started to tailor the practice in that way. And it's not that I don't like men. I just like men. I've been married for almost 25 years. It's not that. It's just like, if I get to choose who I want to help, that's who I'm choosing. And I see that as the biggest opportunity. I have the most to give, like the most value, because of so many of those emotional and mental kind of roadblocks and fears that they go through, that we can really address for them. And it's been great. It's really been an amazing experience to see how women are transformed through the process, and how much stronger they get when they were so afraid and so scared, rightfully so, entering this whole arena, and didn't feel strong enough to stand up for themselves. They needed somebody to advocate for it. Not only listen to them.
Right.
And hear what they're saying. Ask them good questions about where they want to be, what is going on with them, not telling them how it's going to play out, asking them, listening, and then advocating for them.
So from your experience, though, what do you think is at the core of that? Why do you, and because I see it too, right? Like, and my second marriage was definitely, he's like, you brought no value to the marriage. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry that you don't see it, but I know it's there. But what do you think is at the core of most women? If there's a woman listening right now, like, how could they identify with going, yeah, that's me? What do you think is at the core of them not feeling like, or maybe encouraging them to advocate for themselves in a divorce for a fair and equitable division?
Well, I think it starts with a feeling of not being worthy, not being worth it. And that's just societal. That is the way. Nobody values really the world we live in now. I feel like it's gone like backwards as far as valuing women and what we bring to the table. And unless it's economic, it can't be measured as easily, where
Right.
there's so much we bring, whether you have worked or not. There is so much, particularly, and even without children, because that's an easy one to say, well, raising the children. But there are so many marriages where maybe they did not share children, but the things that women did and their benefit to the husband helps their career. Men are more successful. Like the studies show, marriage is very beneficial for men, not that beneficial for women. We
Mhm.
ending up with way less, and men are the one who benefit, right? Because they're like, oh, now somebody is helping keep our house nice and clean, right? Because we care about the way things look and
Yep.
smell, and entertain and facilitate those things, and usually are the facilitators of family gatherings, not even their own family, his family, all these things that add value to a man's life and drain us as women most of the time, because there's so many things that are just not appreciated. And men are definitely more financially successful as a result of marriage,
Yeah, no,
but
and
society
I
doesn't
think,
recognize that.
and I love that you did bring this up, that the transformation that you see your clients go through when they realize the value that they brought, and
Yeah.
that they can advocate for it. Because that was my experience, is that, yeah, I'm like, even though he thought I brought no value, I mean, I was like, after a very long litigated thing, yes, financially, I advocated for myself, for that fair and equitable division. But more importantly, it proved to me that, look, and just because I remember what my attorney said to me when I finally got an attorney, when I was trying to prove everything that I'd done and stuff, and he says, Becky, I don't care if you sat on a couch, ate bonbons, and gained 100 pounds, you're still entitled to half of the increase. And so
Mhm.
it is hard. I'm sure it's for you too, to listen to these women try to diminish what they're doing. You're like, no, guess what? You've got a law.
Mhm.
And you've got laws that are out there that are for you, but you've got to be willing to stand up for it, and you've got to be willing to
Mhm.
advocate. And I love that you help bring that awareness to them, and then you're seeing that transformation, going, the little light bulb going on. What? I really am worth
Yeah,
something? Yes.
exactly. Mhm.
Yeah. So what do you see probably as when you're going through that time with or that transition, or that transformation with people? What is it that you see, makes the biggest difference for them in advocating for themselves? Is it educating themselves? Is it, what do you suggest your clients to do to kind of step into that place of?
Well, so one thing, and this is just because I'm a big proponent of educating yourself,
Yep.
empowering yourself with the information. They're not already, right? Like I would prefer to probably educate and, inform women about more things than they want to know. And I
Mm,
realize that, right? You got to meet them where they are. And that really was one of the reasons I started the podcast, to have an amazing resource of
yep.
really good information. Like it's good, it's real information about the process, about the law, and that you can educate. It's not just, we're just not talking about, sometimes I do have episodes where we do talk about feelings, but like really educating and understanding, because it is going to be scary, because it's unknown, right? They have never been through it with this particular person, and they are concerned about their financial security. They are concerned about what is going to happen after this. Who am I going to be? My identity is completely wrapped up in being a wife and a mother. And how am I going to pay the bills? Am I going to be able to do that? What does all of that look like? Okay, those are valid questions that we don't always have the answer to in the very beginning. We have approximations, we have to gather, we have to understand, what is the financial picture? What's the
Mhm.
reality of your situation? Okay, now we can tell you this is going to be more or less, like this is where we're going, right? Based on their situation. That helps ease some of the fear, right? We all want some certainty, because then that removes the fear that we have about the unknown. And so providing some of that, helping them again begin to understand the financials, so that I can say, listen, you're going to be okay. All right. Obviously, Now there's 2 households. You're not going to get 80% of everything. That is not the law. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
But
Right.
you're going to be able to survive. You might need to supplement that, right? There may be things that you need to do or can do. And that can generally assist with understanding their new reality. Because that's like they have to now think about, well, who am I going to be now? And they don't even know. Oftentimes, and I bet this is, at least with, all of your interviews and talking, this might be something that resonates with you, is they haven't really ever taken the time to think about what they want and who would they want to be. And now is a good time for them to do that. And of course, it varies, right? Depends on what they've done, where they are, their age, whether or not they have children. But there's always an opportunity to learn and evolve. And in this world where we are now with technology, there are a lot of options, right? The ways that people make money nowadays is just, there's the opportunities are there. And it's just, really allowing yourself to be open to them. And so sometimes it's just kind of helping them through that and understanding we're not going to know all the answers today, but we're going to start to get some answers as we move through the process. And you're going to become more educated in what's coming, educating them. If we have to go to court, we are required in the state of Florida to go to mediation in all family law cases. So we go to mediation unless we resolve beforehand. And that certainly happens where the attorney figure it out and then we don't attend mediation. And 95% of our cases in mediation resolve. So we do get there, but preparing them, helping them understand, okay, this is what to expect. So you're not blindsided.
First of all, thank you for doing that, because I don't think a lot of people are prepared for mediation. Like the people I talk to, they're like, I don't know. Nobody's talked to me about what to expect or what I can do, what I can't do. I'm like, you remind me a lot of myself in many ways, right? Because when you got into the criminal law and all that stuff, I didn't mean to but I'm thinking, I remember too, as I got into this, I'm like, wow, I really like the investigation part of it, but also the advocacy. When I used to do real estate many, many years ago, I'd say I was 25 years old when I did real estate. And I used to sit down with my clients and be like, I'm just letting you know, we're going to do real estate 101. And I'm going to go way beyond the call of duty, because I want to make sure that when you sign that REPSI, when you buy a home, that you are more educated than the average person. And it sounds like you do the same thing. You're like, look, we're going to educate. We're going to go a little bit further, because I cannot tell you how many times I've heard people tell me the stories. Like, I went to mediation and I ended up settling something that I don't want. And I was forced into it. I'm like, that's not what mediation's for. What? Nobody told me that. I was like, oh my gosh. So I love that you are about the education. And speaking of which, just so you know, this free download right here is 100 divorce terms that I've prepared so that people can educate themselves just when they're talking to their attorney or when they're talking to people in this profession. So knowing what the terms are, because it's a whole nother language, right?
Yes.
Like when we say litigation, that some people don't know what litigation means, but yeah, so sorry, I didn't mean to pipe in there, but I do think that it's so important that the more educated you get, the better you feel. And what would you say probably are some of the most difficult concepts to get through to people when they're going through divorce, and if they think that their spouse is hiding assets?
Well, and then that's where I think one of the things that's hard to wrap their head around, understand that the process is going to be time consuming. And on our end, 6 months in, we're like, man, we've accomplished so much. And most individuals are like, nothing's happened. And it does feel that way, but there's time frames. Like it works in a certain way, right? Like, you do the subpoenas. Okay, well, I can't serve subpoenas on day one when we serve him. We've got to wait 45 days. There's certain period. And if we want to serve a subpoena, they have an opportunity to object. And then if they do, we have to go to court. And it is the way that it works. So things take time. They have 30 days to respond. Then we have 30 days to respond. And before we know it, 6 months has gone by and they feel like, oh my gosh, nobody's done anything.
Yeah.
And that is a hard thing. to understand. I understand why someone who is not involved in it feels that way. It's kind of like if I've been in a trial all day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's like 4:00. Like this is going by so fast, and that, they don't feel that way. So it's also, how much time does it take in court? It takes a lot of time, and you're probably not going to get to say the things you want to say because of procedure. But so that's the number one thing that I think is very, very difficult for clients, is the time that things take. And it can be hard to, I mean, they understand the concept, like, well, it's his attorney, our attorney calendar, and the judge. And there's just things in addition to timeline. So that, I think the time is very challenging. And certainly when we represent a client, they may say, this is what I want, but we have certain things we have to make sure, like if we're going to put our name on it or draft it, we need to understand the financials. And that's important so that we can advise you, because if you do something that we think is against our advice, you're going to have to either sign that, or we may just say, we're not the attorney for you, because we just have our standards are higher than that. And we want you to be educated, and we want you to have a clear understanding of what you're walking away with. And unless we can help you do that, then we're probably not the attorney for you, which is fine. And I respect people from where they are and what they want to do. We're not for everybody, but we will definitely get you in a better situation than probably most other attorneys can. And, that can be through a great agreement and settling, or a litigation. And, nobody comes in and says, oh, I want to go to trial and spend $100,000. Of course not. Of course not. Nobody. And I don't really want that for them either, because we can, if we can achieve that in so much less time, and attorney's fees that aren't hitting the six figures, that's what I want for them too. It's, a lot of exhausting work, and at the end of the day, a judge is making a decision. A judge who doesn't know you, it doesn't know your husband, doesn't know your kids, and is going to get such a snapshot of information and make decisions that will affect the rest of your life. And that I understand that is scary.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for being in this industry, because I have talked to enough divorce attorneys. And I remember one time I was at a conference, and I did mention this on another podcast some time ago, but I was there, and she was she no longer was an attorney, but I told her, I said, yeah, when I talk to people, I'm like, be patient with your attorney, because I mean, they're dealing with, especially in this space, they're dealing with so much conflict. And she's like, yes, thank you for giving me a voice. I always tell people, look, your attorney is a real person too. And the more you push them, they get tired. And so I guess that's my question too, is I'd love to ask, is what do you do to take care of yourself so that you can be at your best for your clients when they're in chaos?
Well, I've done many things over the years. The most there's two really. Okay. So I've always played tennis. That was extremely therapeutic for me. Anything to help me clear my mind, which is, it's going to involve exercise and sweating. I just, and where in tennis, you got to think about where I'm hitting the ball. Where is the ball? I can't allow the other stuff in. And then also I really started my yoga practice, like really practicing yoga, when I opened my firm, because it was so cool. A yoga studio opened up like within the same office complex, like 3 doors down, and it was hot awesome. Yoga. I'd never done it. Showed up for a class, and I was hooked. And then I went and got my yoga certification a couple of years ago. So that's a big thing for me, is that you have to clear it and leave it. And it doesn't always happen. I have those cases that had kept me up many nights because I do care. And same with all the attorneys here. And so that is one part, but then also building a firm where it's not just me who's helping, right? I have so many people, because I can only do so much. And I really have, leaned into the education, the podcast, the building the business, and bringing in the attorneys. So now I have 6 attorneys and paralegals. We have an amazing staff, and that provides a lot of support to clients, because they have options. There's a lot of attorneys, and just because one attorney got sick or had a baby doesn't mean nobody's going to work on your case.
Right.
Doesn't mean
Well,
there's
and
not somebody here to answer your questions.
yeah, and I love that because it's also, I think sometimes as it going through divorce, we feel like it's a very lonely process that we have to do it alone. And
Yes.
and I always say to people, I'm like, there are so many people that I interview all the time that are just begging to connect with you, to say, look, I've been through it. I understand.
Mhm.
I know. And they're willing to support. And I will say that sometimes we're in survival mode, feeling like we can't. And so, like, I get calls sometimes where people, only call me once or twice, and then they go on. And I said, you know what? That's how I felt when I was going through divorce too. I was like, I just need answers and go to the next person and get the next resource and educate. But it was all stay in the boat, stay in the process, go to the next step, the next right step. And I love that you have multiple people within your firm that they can go to ask a question, so that they're never feeling like they're alone in that process. And I'm going to go back to this again, that you are about advocacy, because it's just, I always say you can fight for yourself, and that's a very different energy, right? It feels like a fight sometimes. Or you can
It
have
is.
people that advocate and go, I get it. I
Mhm.
understand. And I'm not going to let you stay there, because that's not going to
Right.
be productive. Let's move and make the strategic move so that we can hurry and get you through this so you can get on with your next chapter, right?
Right. And so
And
you can make good decisions, and sometimes that advocacy is, you know, what you want, what you're asking for is not going to be possible within the laws that we have. And
right.
it's delivering the reality of their situation and where they are, and helping them get to a point, and not telling them, oh, okay, well, we'll just take it to trial. Maybe that'll happen. And there are attorneys who do that. And because I know, because we were going against them on the other side, and it's like, have you not told them, like, the things that you are, you know, resisting on a settlement are pretty clear in the law? And
Mhm.
so that, to me, that happens. It's either they're just not that
Well,
smart
that's client. What do they
or
call it?
unethical.
A client control or whatever. They don't have control of their client.
Mhm. And
So,
that's true, but they're doing it anyway. And that's true. And
yeah,
that can be very challenging.
yeah,
However, but
yeah,
and that's why there are judges. Sometimes that is the only way a case is going to resolve. And
yeah,
that is the way it is. But I do think that, advocating for our clients means, helping you understand the reality of your situation and what those options are and the likelihood, and being able to know, like, okay, this would be my best day in court, and this is the worst day. So
yeah.
where do we settle? And that's why I'm very competitive, and that's why I named the podcast Women Winning Divorce, because, see, I think you can win. You do not have to make another person lose to win, and
Exactly.
get what you want
100%.
out of your life, right? Like your peace,
Yeah.
it's usually not stuff. Sometimes it is, but it really, you can, if you have a plan for your life and you know where you want to be, and we achieve that, that is winning.
Right. Yeah,
And
I totally
I just
believe.
think that if we reframe the way we think about it, it really is possible.
Well, it's a win-win, right? It's a win.
Yeah.
I mean, we can still, even though if you would have talked to my second husband, he probably would not say that he won in that. But you know what? I always say win and advocate for a fair and equitable division. That's a win-win. I mean,
Mhm.
and even if the other person doesn't feel like it's a win, you do the best that you can to provide, and not go for the jugular. Don't go for more than what's yours. Don't do all of that game, because that really doesn't allow you to win, but win in your life, win for yourself, win for your children, or I mean, you
Mhm.
said something at the very beginning of this podcast, which was really interesting, because I hear it a lot, where women will get a couple years down the road and go, gosh, I wish I would have fought harder. I wish I would have done this and that. And I love that you're giving them the options, going, look, and you're very much like me too, strategic. I can feel it. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, give me this, give me all the facts. Let's
Mhm.
strategize the best result for you. Um, and that's really what you want when it comes to an attorney, is someone that's been like,
Mhm.
here's all your options, and here's where the bumpers are, like
Yeah.
this is where you need to stay within so that we can get you the best result at the very end. And thank you. I really do genuinely appreciate that kind of approach, because that's one of my intentions in doing the Divorcing Strong, is finding people who are advocates, real true advocates. And sometimes it gets frustrating because there's all kinds of different clients, I get it.
Oh,
Um,
100%. Sometimes we want it more for them than they do. And
exactly.
that's okay. It's realizing that, everybody is at a different space, and it can be challenging for sure, but that's all right.
Yeah. Well, as we're kind of wrapping up, tell people a little bit about your podcast, because I want them to go and check you. Whoops, there we go. Let me show you. There we go. I showed it earlier,
Yes.
but the podcast Women Winning Divorce.
Winning
So tell
divorce.
us where they can find it.
Yeah, so really anywhere you get your podcasts, which are on Apple, Spotify, and I think there's so many more. We publish them for all of them, and
Yeah.
it has evolved. So the first year is very legal process heavy, where I'm just being interviewed. So it's basic concepts. It's understanding things like, hey, how to pick a lawyer, what does this mean? What does this look like? So but I felt like good information that doesn't, go old really. And then I started bringing on more guests, and I interview lawyers a lot from different jurisdictions. I find that fascinating, the way that different states handle things. And we are always talking about divorce and family law for women. That's always the core of what we're talking about. And have mental health professionals, financial professionals, other women who are interested in helping women. And a lot of times it's their story and how they got where they are. And it's fascinating, because I think people, and women in particular, are fascinating, and how they
They're
turn
more
lemons into
powerful than we
lemonade.
realize. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all those kind of conversations, but it's always my thought is, because I am a consumer of podcasts, and I like podcasts that give you what they say they're going to give you in a reasonable amount of time. So we are always, within an hour, under an hour, right around 40, 45 minutes is where we shoot for, so that you can get some good information on what we are talking about at the time, whether it's preparing for divorce, healing for divorce, what about your children, all kind of things that we talk about. And I interview, some of my attorneys, and we'll talk about topics, that they really, had some big trials on. And they, we want to talk about alienation, and when that's, accused, and how do we talk about that, selling a business. So, some are more technical than others, but I always keep it. I don't go crazy and have a bunch of legal language. I'm used to talking to regular people and not using a bunch of legal jargon without breaking it down. So really try to do that, because at the end of the day, that is the goal, that you are getting the information you came there to get, to make better decisions for where you're going next.
Yeah. And one of the other things that I really aim for too is to bring people hope that there really is life after divorce, because sometimes it feels very, very lonely. And it feels like it's a permanent state, and you're just like, it's never going to end, And I really do. I like to always bring them the hope that there are still really good men out there. And there is a life that you get to create on the other side of it. So thank you so much for coming on and taking time out of your busy schedule to do that, or to come and share your wisdom in that. And make sure you go and check her podcast right there. Also, I just have one last question that I always like to ask my my guests is, what does divorcing strong mean to you?
Well, to me, that would mean, if you're divorcing strong, then you understand your situation. So you're empowered with information and knowledge about what you're entitled to, where it would be. And you also have a, maybe not a full plan, but like which direction you want to go afterwards, because you can, and many people will be, right, feeling broken and sad during and maybe right after the divorce. But if you're divorcing strong, you're hopefully setting up the foundation for new life, new opportunities that maybe you never dreamed possible based on where that you were in your situation before. So that was a rambling answer, hopefully, to that
No, I
question.
love it. I love it because it really is. I want people to know that there's another chapter of their life. You know, you can close one
Yes.
chapter, open up a new one, and it's totally blank canvas, right? And like you were
Yeah. What
talking
a
about
great
earlier,
opportunity.
yeah, you get your own colors, your own paintbrushes. I've never made that analogy before, but that's basically what it is. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking when I was going through my first divorce, I was thinking, wow, I get to love again. You know, I get to love again,
Mhm.
and I get to love and give in a different level based on what I've learned from this one. I get to do it again. So anyway, well, thank you so much, Heather. And I want to make sure that people can contact you. To contact Heather, you can visit her website at floridawomenlawgroup.com. Now, you're just doing law in Florida, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, we are only licensed in Florida, and really we are in the Northeast Florida area. Florida is obviously vast, and it's important to really understand and know the local
Laws.
law. I mean, the laws are throughout the state, but there are certainly certain procedures and things, and I think it's very beneficial for clients to have an attorney who is really in practices in those courts in front of those judges all the time. They will have better insight for you. I mean, we can always comment and advise you on the law
Yeah.
throughout the state of Florida, but we're only representing you in our geographical area.
Which you definitely brought up something that's very important is understanding how the judges work and how they think and how
Mm-hmm.
they rule and how they, because it does make, I know for me, when I went for our case, the first thing I did was looked up everything I could about that judge, you know, just to try to understand how they think. Even though I hadn't been in court before, I did that research, and so that I know how to create my case that way. So, but anyway, wonderful. Well, make sure that you check Heather's podcast out. Also go to her website if you have anybody in there. And thank you again, Heather, for joining us today on Divorcing Strong podcast. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Yes, hold on one sec. All right. Thank you guys for joining us on another episode of Divorcing Strong podcast. I'm Becky Sampson, and boy, I love this idea of continuing education, educating yourself, especially when you have not been used to the court system, and then you come into the court system, having people have resources to be able to do that. So make sure you also join us on the YouTube channel, also all of the audio platforms, Divorcing Strong with Becky Sampson, and we will see you on the next episode. Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Divorcing Strong podcast. This episode is sponsored by Only Subpoenas, where we make subpoenas simple, powerful, and 100% compliant. If you're having a hard time getting the information you need to settle for a fair and equitable divorce, let us help you. Whether you're an attorney or you're navigating divorce on your own, subpoenas can uncover the truth, secure the evidence you need, and level the playing field. To see how we can help, book an appointment by visiting our website at onlysubpoenas.com.